Do you have any backup Honestly Comicals that you weren't going to use?
Yeah, but you said your Honestly Comical might be something that we would both pick. Yeah. And I have one that might be something we both pick.
So I don't want to. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Honestly Comical. I'm Cody. This is Melissa. And so today we're going to be talking about things that we find honestly comical. That's sort of the overarching theme of the podcast. But the other day, well, do you have anything you want to add first?
No, you should go first.
You want me to go first?
Yeah.
All right. The other day, we went to a concert.
I knew it.
All right, you knew what I was going to be?
I knew it. That is what I thought you were
So we like to bring these out like fresh. We want the other person to react to them in real time. And the other day, we went to a concert together in San Francisco. And we went to go see my favorite band, Bright Eyes. Should I even say the name of the band? I guess I must.
Why not?
All right.
It's not like we need to protect his anonymity.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone was there.
We're punching up. It's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Went to go see my favorite band, Bright Eyes. I've loved this band since I was a kid, like teenager. This is my favorite band for a very long time. Still are. I think his writing is immaculate, and the way he crafts the song is amazing. And we went to go see them, and we saw them. We saw
more of him than we wanted to.
So we got these. I'm not even going to go back that far. We went into the concert, and I was very excited. I didn't know what to expect. I'd never seen them live. They broke up for several years, and I was bummed because I'm like, yeah, I'll never get to see my favorite band play live. They started touring again. Spotify gave me a notification on my phone like, hey, these guys are going to be in your area. And I was at work, and I immediately dropped everything and booked the tickets. We drove out there, sat down in our seats, got a pretzel, nestled in. And
we were there hella early on accident.
Yeah. We were there very early. And then the opener went on at the time that we thought the band was going to go on.
Yeah, we thought we were an hour early for the concert, for when the band would start. Turns out we were an hour early for the opener, and then the opener plays for half an hour, and then there's a half-hour intermission. So we were 2 hours early.
Yeah, it was pretty bad. And so we sat down, nestled in, and the band all, with the opener finishes playing, the band all walks out. And everybody I recognize is out there. Finally, the lead singer, Conor Oberst, walks out on the stage, and he everybody goes crazy, and he immediately turns towards the orchestra he has playing behind him at every band. They have a lot of string instruments, and he sort of does this jumping pose, and then lands and holds a note bent over for about what felt like an hour, but his entire ass just is out. He has no belt, no underwear, and low-rise jeans on, and his entire ass is just out,
the whole thing.
And so we both just sort of listened to the first song.
I was frozen, and so we had balcony seats, so we had a great view, but a little bit far away.
We had a great view.
But we were a little bit high up, so it was even more of a direct view. Yeah. But we were a little bit far away, so I was squinting my eyes trying to decipher if maybe, I was please, that has to be a t-shirt. I'm seeing a little bit of a t-shirt or something, maybe a little tucked into his But the more I looked at it, the more I was that is an ass. That is a bare ass.
Well, we listened to the whole first song, and then I turned to you, and I'm at this point I'm just laughing and I'm
so hard.
And I lean over to put my arm around you to say something, and you're that's his ass, right? I was like,
Yeah, I saw his face. I saw that he was laughing. So I was like, oh, cool, we're talking about this. Because in my head, I'm thinking, this is his favorite band. He's waited forever to see this band. I'm not about to be the girl that's like, ha ha ha, he showed his ass. So I was kind of thinking, I'll just not say anything till maybe the concert's over. Maybe I'll bring it up or something. But no, he turns to me and I can see he's laughing really hard. And so I just go, was that his ass?
Yeah. Maybe, yeah. But, well, I'd been drinking since the opener because we were just like, bored and sitting there listening to this awfully mixed. Well, I guess you can probably see who they're touring with. I don't really want to say that because
I think the opener was actually pretty good.
It was mixed. It was really
mixed
bad.
A little bit poorly.
Well, yeah, they were fine, but yeah, it was mixed bad. So we were just sort of like, well, I'm gonna go get another drink. Do you want some M&Ms or something? By the way, the drinks at this venue were, I think it was the most expensive place I've ever bought drinks. I bought the $16 beers at the baseball stadium.
I've bought the $24 cocktails in Vegas, and these were more expensive.
Blows my mind. Yeah, I don't know what they were up to over
I don't
there,
either.
but we did buy, I think, 2 drinks apiece. I mean, I don't know. It was too many, and yeah, very expensive. So I had a few drinks, and had it been earlier in the night, and they had come out at the time they were supposed to, and I wasn't already like kind of buzzed, I probably would have just played it off like, yeah, let's listen to the show. Everything's fine. I'm here to see my favorite bit. But no, I was drunk enough that I'm like that's his whole butt crack. We're getting a full moon.
And that's the first thing he did when he got on stage. Like, there was nothing before this. There was, like, seemingly nothing after this. Because what do you, like, we kept whispering to each other, how do you come back from that? Like, the whole rest of the set, that's all I'm thinking about. Is like, you have no underwear on. Like, every time he moves, I'm like, oh, God, be careful. You're wearing low-rise jeans and no underwear. Like,
be careful, yeah. And it happened more, like, he would like jump and like turn around, and Melissa's like, "Oh, there."
I'd be like, "You missed another butt crack."
It was pretty bad, and we went home the next day, and we're like Googling it and like looking on his subreddit and stuff, and
to
trying
see if anyone else.
Like, I just can't believe no one else would talk about it, and it's just us. This is the only time you're going to hear about it.
Yeah.
No article, no magazine, no photo op. It's just us. I
was like staring at the photographers. Like, there are usually some photographers that I think the band pays, or maybe the venue has them. I don't know, but they're even closer to the stage than the front row of standing people. You know, they're up there and taking photos for the band. And I kept watching them after this happened because I was thinking, did they like take pictures, or did they all just silently put their cameras down and wait for that to be over?
Is it rude to take pictures now?
Yeah.
I feel like if they knew him well enough, they'd be like, "Oh my God, he's gonna hate these."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like the whole rest of the set, I couldn't stop thinking about what was probably going through his mind, because I'm thinking maybe he bent over, felt the air on his cheeks, and then like thought, maybe if I just stay here, people will think it's on purpose. I don't know. I don't know what went through his head.
He's like, man, I'm too far gone now. Like if I reach back to pull up, they're gonna know. Like I have to. Yeah. Like if he pulls them up now, I mean, it's all over. The charade's over. Everybody knows that he just exposed himself on stage, and it was pretty bad. It was bad enough. Like, and again, we're like up in. It's not like a bad balcony seat. It's like it's hard to explain. This place usually has like opera going on. So, and anyway, we had good seats, but they were balcony.
It's like the best seat you could have without having to stand.
Yeah,
like if you wanted to be in the standing room, obviously you could be closer, but we were, had these comfy balcony seats and a really good view. We were very close to the edge of the balcony, But yeah, we had the best view from just like...
So you said earlier, like, how's he going to come back from that? And let me tell you...
he could have done a better job coming back, I think.
Yeah. So he also did this thing where he started miming his lyrics. And the first one, the first one was kind of okay. Like you can get away with it. I think the lyric was "smoking gun," and he did like a little little shot himself thing.
Yeah, he
and I'm
pretended to cock a gun and
yeah, it was already kind of like, all right, I'll let it slide. It's okay. And then then a few minutes later, he had the lyric is back against the wall, and he just like puts his arms up behind him and shuffles backwards, and he's up against the wall. And then whenever we got to tightrope, boys, I lost it. He pretended to walk on a tightrope.
Full on losing his balance walking on a tightrope.
You might as well just have a real tightrope out there at that point. There's no point in doing all that if you're not going to commit.
Music was great. We had a great time, but I just wasn't expecting any of that, especially if you know his music.
Yeah, it's super
I expected him to just stand there in front of a microphone and kind of just play his, music. I don't know, I did not expect that.
It's super emo music. Yeah, so yeah, I really expected.
But yeah, he was wearing socks on his hands with the holes cut for the thumbs and everything. It's kind of,
I'm sure they were he probably wasn't.
They probably weren't socks.
Yeah.
But it was that,
Yeah, people.
We all knew that kid in high school that cut holes in his socks to wear them on his hands.
Maybe they don't.
Okay, well, I knew that kid. But.
Yeah, I also did. But yeah, the whole thing was just awkward as hell, and I really enjoyed the show. Nonetheless, it was really nice to see my favorite band play live, but. Man, that was.
We just couldn't stop laughing basically the whole time we were there.
It's just what is happening? What are we doing here? I don't know.
We also we drove 2 hours to the show, and then we were there 2 hours early on accident. We thought we were just an hour early, but waited 2 hours to see them. Knew that we had to drive 2 hours back home. And we're just laughing so hard at all the miming and the butt cracks of it all. It was pretty funny.
The miming and the butt cracks of it all. Yeah, that sums it up pretty good. But yeah, that's what I found honestly comical this week.
Great choice. So what I find honestly comical this week is how many scams we have to deal with on a daily basis.
Okay.
Just existing in the world. And I thought it'd be interesting to go through some of the most interesting scams in history.
Okay.
And also just kind of personal anecdotes about scams that we've encountered. So the reason I came up with this idea is because today I was doing internet cybersecurity awareness training at work, which I have to do every year. And at the same time, I listed a couple things on Facebook Marketplace that I was trying to get rid of. And there are so many scam messages that I get, and I'm pretty good at recognizing them and ignoring them when they come in, but it's so annoying, and they're so ubiquitous at this point.
Yeah. And also you were born with computers. To older people, it's pretty my dad will text me and be like, the bank said that they need my social security number again, and I'm not gonna give it to them. I'm
my grandma does the same thing.
Please don't give it to them. My favorite thing is when they know it's a scam well enough to message someone younger and be like, this, they said this to me, I'm not gonna respond. They want us to know.
But it's scary for me to hear that they even get those, because I know how close they are to to actually giving them information.
A little better wording and a little more convincing, and they're just giving somebody all their info. My dad just told me the other day that he went down to the bank, and the girl who works, and this is way on the East Coast, south, we're talking it's a southern state. And the girl who works there is I don't do any online banking, and I use checks for everything. And And I'm allowed to talk like that because I'm from there. So,
I'm sure people love being behind her in the grocery store.
exactly. And I'm like, that's just like, there's no point in that. It's just like living in the past. Whenever you see people use this technology, hundreds, like probably thousands of people use this technology every day because of where you work. Like, you see it succeed.
It's so funny she works
all day
at a bank
long, yeah.
and does that.
And then you don't trust it yourself. It just makes no sense at all. And I was telling him that, and he's like, well, she just, doesn't want to get her identity stolen. And I'm like, that's not a real concern for anyone. Like, if you get your identity stolen, the worst that happens is you spend 10 minutes on the phone. Like, all you do is call a few people and say, yeah, that's not me. And they're like, can you prove you're you? And I'm like, I can.
Well, also there's like a quote that I came across when I was like researching scams, and I didn't write it down, so unfortunately I don't remember the exact quote. I know. But the quote was basically something that like con artists say among the community is, it's morally wrong to let a sucker keep his money, or something like that. Something to that effect.
Yeah.
And when I was like, I'm reading about all these scams, I'm like, oh, these awful people doing this to good, innocent folks. And then I read that and I'm like, you're kind of right. Like, yeah, because I can recognize a scam. I've never been scammed. Well, actually, this just reminded me of a good story I have where I was scammed, sort of. Not like an internet scam or anything, but when I was like 18, I worked at a Dollar Tree. And I was hired on as a seasonal employee over Christmas. So, they're like, oh yeah, if you're good, if you do well, we'll keep you on or whatever. But I ended up just not doing well. Like, it was my first job ever. It's honestly embarrassing to think back at how bad I was at having a job, like when I was 18. And I was working the cash register one day, and this guy comes in and he goes, oh, can you break 100? And he's got $100 bill. And I said, oh, sorry, the till won't open unless you buy something. You can buy, one thing for like $1, and then I'll give you change for like $99. And he's like, okay, cool. And he, throws a candy bar on there or whatever. I put it into the computer. It tells me how much change there should be. And then I open the till, and there's not enough money in the till to make the change. So we always put big bills underneath. So like, there's all the little slots for the bills, and then you have to like lift the thing and slide anything like 50 or 100 under there. So I had put that in there and then grabbed like 20s and stuff. And then I was like, and smaller bills. And then I was like, oh, sorry, I don't have enough change. Like, I'll have to call my manager over. And he goes, oh, that's okay. Just go ahead and just give me the 100 back. I'm like, okay. So I put the money down, and then I grab the 100 from underneath and I hand it to him. And then super fast, I wasn't looking, I guess, he exchanges it for a 10 that he just had. And he goes, you just handed me a 10. And I was like, oh, sorry. Like, oops. So I'm like, here, give me that 10, and then I'll give you 100 back. And so I gave him 100 back. So he scammed me out of $90 because he gave me that 10. So technically he just got $90 for free because I had given him the 100 back, and then I gave him another 100. So that was really embarrassing. And then I literally did not think anything of it. I'm like, oh yeah, I made a mistake, because I made mistakes all the time. You have no idea how often I'm like counting change, because people would do this at the Dollar Tree a lot, because everything's $1, but then there's the tax on it. That's usually like 8 cents or whatever. So people will usually give me, let's say their total is like $4.08 or something, and they'll give me a 5. And then they'll dig around in their purse and be like, oh, actually, here's 8 cents. But I've already inputted into the computer $5. So then I have to do the math of, okay, well, if they give me 8 cents, then I need to give them, $2 back or whatever it is. And I was really bad at that. I probably still am. I probably just did that math wrong in my head because I'm not good at that kind of thing. Like, I use calculators. Like, I can do a lot of calculus and differential equations with calculators, but I'm not good with like quick mental math, especially when I was 18. So I would get it wrong a lot, and then they'd have to count it out. They'd be like, no, look, and they'd like count it, and I'd be like, okay, you're right. And so when this guy pulls up a $10 bill and goes, you gave me 10, I just thought nothing of it. I'm like, oh, I made another mistake. Here we go. Typical day. And I didn't think anything of it. And then when I went on break, I have to bring the till into like the back room and they weigh it and then they measure it basically against the computer to see if it matches up. And it was short exactly $90. And they were like, that's a lot. We're going to have to write like a form. Like, do you know why? I'm like, no, I have no idea why. Like, truly, I was like, that's super weird. I don't know. How did I make that bad of change all day? And so we like write a form or whatever. I wasn't like in trouble. They were just like, well, we just have to note it. And then
you were definitely in trouble. They just weren't telling you yet.
Yeah, I guess. But so then I go on break and I'm sitting there and it just hits me all of a sudden. And I remember that guy and I think about the math and I'm like, that's exactly $90. If I did give him 100 and he pulled up a 10, that's exactly $90 and that's what I'm short. This is my fuck up, like shit. So I come inside off of break. I walk directly into the back room and I say, I just realized something. And I immediately start bawling my eyes out. And I'm like, I'm so sorry. Like, I just realized this while I was on break. And I explained the whole situation. I'm like, this guy came in, blah, blah, blah. And they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, people try that shit all the time. Like, it's fine, whatever. I did not stay on after the season. They were like, we're going to let you go. But that was traumatizing. I forgot about that till just this moment, but that was really horrible.
But also, like, what if you had said, nah, I gave you 100? You know, like, what if you're like, I gave you $100 back, right? And he's like, no, it was 10. And you're like, no, it was 100. What do you do then? Like you have to call over. They have to go weigh everything then, and he's just like, you know, whistling and walking to the door, like, oh, I wasn't here. Mm-hmm. You know,
yeah.
So like, it would have still been like a big thing, and who knows what somebody who's trying to pull a scam like that is capable of doing beyond like it when they're getting caught. You know, he might think he's in worse trouble than he is. Mm-hmm. You know, so
anyway, so I did a small amount of research on scams.
All right.
One thing I found interesting is apparently in 1849, a man in New York would just approach strangers and engage them in conversation, win their confidence, and just convince them to give him money and valuables. And the New York Times, before they caught him, was calling him the confidence man, AKA
he's the original, yeah,
con man or con artist. So that's where that came from. I had always thought it came from convict for some reason. I don't know why. My brain was just like, oh, con man must be like convict, you know, like criminal. But apparently it just comes from confidence.
Yeah.
And I feel like we should just start saying confidence man again. Like, I'm just going to be like, what are you, some kind of confidence man? Some kind of confidence artist?
Confidence artist is pretty funny. I like that.
So here's something about me. I will hear a phrase or a name or some term my whole life. And if I understand what you mean by it in conversation, I will never Google the origin. I'm fine. Like, and Ponzi scheme is one of them. Like, I've heard it my whole life. I understand its meaning, like how people use it. You know, oh, that's a Ponzi scheme. Okay, it can't be trusted. They're going to steal your money. I got it. But I have never bothered to Google, like, the origin or what it actually means until now. I'm sure everyone else has, and everyone knows this except me. But it is specifically referring to scams where you, like, they said, borrow money from Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah. So what this man would do is he would he'd go up to one guy and be like, hey, I got this great thing going. I got a really nice hedge fund. We're doing lots of investing. I'm getting these guys like 80% returns, you know? And they're like, oh, that's great. Like, can you do that for me? And they'd put money in. And then the 80% returns would come from that guy that just put money in. And they'd be like, well, look at this money I just got you. Get your friend to come talk to me. And then that guy would put money in. and it would just sort of like,
yeah, and the original guy goes and tells other people, yeah, trust him, he did get me that 80% or whatever.
And it's sort of like the banking system where the money, like the money is never really there. Like if you go to if 10 millionaires are using the same bank, none of their money is actually there. Like
or if every American went and withdrew their entire bank balance right now, the bank would run out of money.
Yeah, it's exactly that, except it's one guy doing it.
Yeah, and then also taking some for himself.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part where he gets into trouble.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, like, if you Google, like, biggest scams in history or whatever, 90% of them are Ponzi schemes. Just other people doing the same thing and getting millions of dollars. So I didn't include all of those because they're the same idea. I tried to look for more unique things. Speaking of which, here's another one. Have you ever heard the phrase, if you believe that, I've got a bridge to sell you?
Yeah.
Do you know that one too? You know everything.
I know every scam that you're going to tell. The guy that actually sold the...
There's multiple. It's like a long line of con artists that have been doing this since it was built.
Well, I mean, there's the one guy that did it, though. There's there's one guy that sold the Eiffel Tower twice.
Really? Oh, yeah. I didn't see that one.
Yeah, he's like...
How much did he sell it for?
I don't remember, but he was like on the phone with somebody, and he's like, "Yeah, we got this thing. It's just not sustainable. Like, it's just a big pile of metal. Really, I'll sell it to you for the scrap metal." And they like called the scrapyard, and they're like, "Yeah, it's the Eiffel Tower. It just sucks now. We don't want it anymore." And so he. Yeah, sold it to him for scrap price, and they gave him the money.
Yeah, that's the trend I'm seeing here. So what I found was about the Brooklyn Bridge. And a lot of people have sold the Brooklyn Bridge, apparently, or convinced people that they were going to buy it for like $200.
Yeah.
And so these people think they're getting the deal of a lifetime, but it's just nothing.
Also, how do you own a bridge?
I know. Why... If someone was like, oh, do you want to buy this bridge? And even if for some reason I could confirm it was real, I'd probably be like, I don't need a bridge. I'm good.
What they tell them is, like, you can set up tolls and stuff.
Right.
Which isn't even true. I don't think, even if you owned that land, I don't think you can just set up a toll.
Maybe back in 1883 when this happened, you could. At this point, I'm sure there are government organizations that will regulate that, but yeah, many people, apparently someone who ended up becoming mayor sold the bridge for $200. Peaches O'Day. His name is Peaches.
Peaches. Bro, if a guy named Peaches is trying to sell you anything, like
other than peaches, maybe I'd buy peaches for Peaches.
My name's Peaches. What are you selling? Oh,
I'll give you one guess.
What do you think? Can I get 3 guesses? First 2 don't count. Like, I might buy some peaches from Peaches. Yeah, but Peaches O'Day, is that a real name?
Yeah, it says con artist and future mayor. I'll link the articles that I found these
con
from.
Artist and future mayor.
Yeah.
I feel like that could be. You could just put that in front of every mayor.
Con artist and future mayor.
Hey guys, it's us from the future. And before we start this next bit, we just want to say that we were scammed. We were scammed in the idea that we thought that this person was a real person, but we're about to talk, or have already talked, about Peaches O'Day for a good 15 minutes. And it turns out the article that we found was less than factual. Do you have anything about
Yeah, the article that we found this on just had like little blurbs about it, and we did just a little bit of additional research after we had filmed the episode just to make sure that whatever we're talking about is actually factual.
Which we should do. You know, typically people do it before the episode. Sometimes they do it after. We decided to do it after. Yeah. And figured out that, everything we're about to talk about is about a 1930s movie about like a woman who was a fake con artist who like did some bad stuff and then wore wigs afterwards to like hide her identity and become the mayor. So yeah, this is like a weird like vaudeville like comedy that we hadn't heard of, and sounded too good to be true. Peaches O'Day, you know. So yeah, either before or after this clip, this is gonna come in.
Yeah, I think in the clip we thought it was a man and thought it was a true story, and it's neither of those things. So
it is neither a man nor is it true.
Yeah.
So yeah, do with that information what you will. You can also just choose to believe the story as we did and move on with your lives.
Yeah.
So all right, what else you got?
All right. Oh, this one's good.
All right.
I hope you don't know it. So there was a super rich guy named Jacob Baker in Philadelphia. And when he died, some people started convincing the world that anybody with the last name Baker had a claim to this estate. And so they had these people submit some amount of money to like stake a claim and maybe win this estate kind of thing. And there was no Jacob Baker. He did not exist. This estate did not exist. So they just got $3 million from 3,000 people.
Just because, wait, how did they get the money? What did they get the money from?
I assume they probably said like, oh, like send us like an application and a fee or something, you know?
Oh my gosh.
That kind of thing. And
that's kind of like the housing market in California, not but the renters market.
Yeah.
I swear you could just set up a house on Zillow and be like, send in your applications and because we put in a few applications when we first moved out here, and it's like $100 for an application. And if I was doing that once a day, I mean that's decent side money.
Just post pictures of a fake house and then have people send in applications and application fees, and then be like, "Oh, sorry, we picked somebody else." Like,
which they're supposed to refund the fee. But
not really. There was one that we did get refunded because they had picked somebody before we actually paid. Mm-hmm. But if you send it in among a pool and they pick it, it specifically says everywhere like non-refundable application fee.
Honestly, disgusting.
I know.
Yeah, but it's crazy. They made $3 billion off a fake estate. But also.
And they picked like the most common last name ever. They're like, "Hey, anyone whose last name is Baker, send me money."
That's so funny. Like, the John Smith estate is up for sale.
It's a good thing they didn't pick like Jingleheimer Schmidt. There'd be like two guys.
Two dudes. I don't think there's any dudes, actually. I don't think it's a real name.
It's not, I'm sure.
Yeah. Zero.
Well, I don't know. Someone might have changed their name to Jingleheimer Schmidt.
Yeah, someone probably has.
Some John Jacob out there has probably done this. Anyway, here's another one. So, around the end of the 1950s, quiz shows became super dominant. And one of the winners of a game show called 21 claimed the show was rigged. And then many others also started claiming all these other game shows were rigged, and then they basically took all the game shows off the air until 1963 when Merv Griffin came up with Jeopardy. And this says it reassured skeptical audiences by giving contestants the answers first and making them respond in question form. So that's why it's backwards, because people thought it was rigged the other way, and then we just flip it around and now it's not rigged. So
I've heard that he was like pitching that to his wife. There was like a game they would play on a plane or something when they were flying, and he was just like saying the answer first, and then
she would have to come up with.
Yeah, and I just found that really...
That is cool.
Yeah, really cool that he was just, spitballing it to somebody in that casual way before it actually ever became a thing. But
That's really interesting.
what was so? We might have to look into this, but what was the game 21 even? What?
Not sure. 21 was an American game show originally hosted by Jack Barry that aired on NBC. So, two contestants competed against each other in separate isolation booths, answering general knowledge questions to earn 21 total points. So, just a trivia game show, sounds like.
And yeah, let's see.
Oh, right here, game show scandals. Okay, so the accusation is the producer secretly gave assistance to certain contestants in order to prearrange these shows' outcomes while still attempting to deceive the public into believing that the shows were objective and fair.
Interesting.
That is interesting.
I wonder how this claim ever came to be, because I mean, you could claim that about any, like, if you're losing, you could claim. I mean, my brother-in-law,
I think it was a winner that said, "Hey, they helped me win."
Oh, okay. Anyway, I was going to say my brother-in-law claims every game is rigged.
Yeah.
Like, he thinks.
If he's losing, it's rigged. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's out to get him.
Yep.
Donald Trump, I think he thinks that too.
Another one, and this is kind of a common theme, but I'll talk about this one in particular. In the 1970s, there was a gas crisis, kind of like the one we're going through right now. But a con artist created the 20th Century Motor Car Corporation and unveiled the Dale, which the company pitched as the answer to the fuel crisis, claiming this car that can get 70 miles per gallon. Back in the 70s. And it was like futuristic looking, only had 3 wheels, and it attracted $30 million in investments and $3 million in advanced sales. So we were buying this before it existed. And it turns out it never existed. There was no research done for this at all, no manufacturing, nothing. And that kind of reminds me of the Hulu show The Dropout, which is about Elizabeth Holmes and her company Theranos, which claimed that they could do thousands of blood tests on 1 drop of blood. And they had this little device that they claimed worked, but they faked all the tests and everything. They just got all these people to invest millions of dollars. And she, did tons of interviews. Like this was sort of recent. I think it was like,
it was like 2018.
2000 something, yeah.
It was very recent.
Yeah. So you can find interviews and everything of this, and the Hulu show, of course, that came out. I watched it. It was amazing. I loved it so much. And that's kind of a common theme of these scams, is just convincing investors that this amazing product exists that doesn't exist. But another common theme of all these scams is like they always get caught. Like they'll like swindle millions of dollars, and then they get caught and spend the rest of their lives in jail or whatever. So
what it reminds me of is the Air umbrella. So if you know, you know. There was a GoFundMe campaign for.
Was it not Kickstarter?
Yeah, sorry. I don't know why I said GoFundMe. It was there was a Kickstarter campaign for this. It was just supposed to be like an air powered umbrella, like super futuristic sort of thing, like and it was just like essentially a stick that propelled air, and it was supposed to keep rain away from you. And it was if you haven't heard about it, I would go look into it, because there was one gentleman that invested, and then he messaged the company because of course that's not a real thing. Like, I mean, no one in their right mind is going to put money into this, and this guy wasn't in his right mind, because he then, after he backed this Kickstarter, he then messaged them every week for like
5 years.
It was
or something.
years. It was like 700 posts he made saying, like, I want my money, or I want my umbrella, like, I want my fucking umbrella, like, every other day. And yeah, it's a really, really fun. I think Alan Pan has a really cool YouTube video talking about exactly what this guy went through, and he actually makes him a sort of a halfway working prototype for the Air umbrella. So I would check that out. It was really funny.
Yeah. A lot of the best scams they've made movies about. So, you know, a lot of people have probably seen these movies, but there's a movie called War Dogs that I've never seen. Came out in 2016, and Jonah Hill and Leonardo DiCaprio are in it. It's about two arms dealers that got a $300 million contract with the government to acquire 100 million rounds of ammunition to deliver to American-backed fighters in Afghanistan. And they basically just bought cheap Chinese-made ammo and sent that instead and kept the rest, I think. But yeah, they made a movie about it. Actually, Leonardo DiCaprio plays a lot of con artists.
Yeah, he does.
Like a lot of the scams that I was finding, they're like, and Leonardo DiCaprio plays him in this movie.
What's he trying to tell us?
Right.
What does he mean by that? Whenever he's just playing, I don't know. But
what was that movie we watched? It was him, right? Where he actually impersonated a pilot.
Yeah, I don't. What is that called?
It might be on my list. Is it Catch Me If You Can?
Yeah, that's what it's called. Yeah,
yeah,
Catch Me If You
that's
Can.
right. That's a good movie.
That is a good movie. He essentially just he's playing a guy that for some reason, I don't know, he's like some weird James Bond character in real life, and he just knows how to forge checks and he forges like a pilot's license and just starts flying planes, and he impersonates a doctor and a lawyer, and this is all based on a true story. Like some guy out there did all this, and then he got hired by the government because, you know, that's where else would he work? Like,
I know, it's just like Mindhunter, where they end up just interviewing serial killers to help catch serial killers. Like, it's the same thing. They ended up hiring him to help catch con men.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see what else I got. Oh, here's another example of a name I've heard my whole life and never bothered to Google. Bernie Madoff. You know this guy? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I know Bernie Madoff.
You know literally everything. And I just, because you have that interest that like drives you to actually Google the thing and learn about it and then retain that. I don't have that. Like, as long as I understand what you're saying to me in conversation, like, if I know what you mean by Bernie Madoff, like some reference you're making, I'm not going to go Google it because I know what you mean. You know what I mean?
I think anyone my age or older knows who Bernie Madoff is, though. He was such a prominent figure in scammery.
Yeah, like, 2008.
Childish Gambino mentions him in a lyric. Like, it's...
Maybe that's how I've heard the name.
Yeah.
No, I'm sure I've heard the name, like, my whole life, But anyway, for anybody who does not know, he basically also ran a Ponzi scheme.
Man, this Ponzi guy.
I know.
Like,
he really came up with something.
He did something big. Like, just imagine being the first guy to scam that many people out of their money. Like, what? I don't know. And
do you know what Bernie Madoff did? Because this is another one where I meant to Google it because it literally doesn't say. It just says he did his Ponzi scheme.
He just ran a Ponzi scheme.
Okay.
Like, he didn't do anything fancy. He just did the exact same thing.
Gotcha.
Like, he did the exact same thing that Ponzi did. But imagine, like, back in the day, before Ponzi ever did his thing, I mean, it must have been just so surprising to be getting 80% returns on your investments. Yeah. I mean, anybody would be putting money into it.
I would voluntarily take part in a Ponzi scheme if I was like the first investor. You know what I mean? Like, guaranteed to get my money back. You just don't want to be that last guy that ended up putting in millions and not getting anything. Yeah,
I mean, you just got to get in early into the Ponzi scheme.
I want to be Paul, you know? Borrow money from Peter to pay Paul.
And the problem with it is you never know what the stock market's going to do. I think that it was Madoff that got found out because 2008 came around and everything was crashing, and everybody was like, "I'd like my money back now, please." I would like to take my money out of the stock market because it seems to be plunging at a ferocious rate.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I only have like 3 guys' money."
Yeah.
So,
here's the thing about that.
yeah. Have you heard of a fella named Ponzi?
Well, I'm a little bit like him, you see.
I'll get you your money back, but I just have to wait for the next guy. Yeah.
That's funny.
So yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the 2008 housing market bubble and stock market crash thereafter, and just economic downturn, as it likes to be spun, that made it so that he finally got caught. So, yeah.
Interesting. Another one that got its own show is the Fire Festival, which was supposed to be an expensive, ultra-luxe music festival for industry elites and VIPs, and it has a Netflix documentary. I have not watched it, but now I'm interested in watching it. But yeah, this was in 2017, and they just promoted it as this super fancy music festival, but I guess everyone that bought tickets and went found themselves stranded in the Bahamas.
Yeah.
In unhygienic and crude accommodations with a dangerous shortage of supplies.
So it was essentially like the Olympic Village, I think, in that regard. I remember that. You remember that used to be a thing. I don't know if you ever followed the Olympics at all, but they used to, like, every few years they would have like a scandal about how horrible the living conditions were in the Olympic Village.
I've just heard a lot just about, I don't know, nothing specific about the living conditions, I guess, but
yeah, just the debauchery thereafter.
Yeah. That part. Heard a lot about that.
Yeah, no, I can't remember where it was hosted, but like I saw pictures of like everything was like covered in dust and like old, and but yeah. I saw this and I saw pictures of it, and that's a scam I could probably fall for. Like, if everybody else is like, if they have, you know, good publicity and they're setting up pictures and
definitely,
and all your friends are going, they're like, yeah, we're gonna go to the Bahamas this year and see Bright Eyes show their ass or whatever. And yeah, I would buy tickets for that.
It's kind of like the When We Were Young festival, which is happening in October, and My Chemical Romance is going to be there, and like everybody got so excited. It's all these bands from When We Were Young, but then everybody started doing the math of like how many bands they said are going to be there, how many stages there are, and how long the festival is and everything, and saying basically it's impossible. There are way too many bands listed, and a lot of the bands were like tweeting saying that they didn't know that they were going to this festival or playing at it. They were saying that they got contacted to do a show, but they didn't know it was a festival. Like it was just super sketchy and super weird. And everyone on the internet was like, "This is horrible. Don't go to this."
They're like, "Yeah, I'm seeing Foo Fighters in October," and Foo Fighters like, "This is the first I'm hearing of it." Really, like I feel like somebody should have called me first.
I'm going where?
and at first it was just 2 days, and it was so many bands, like hundreds of bands that. So many that I was like, oh, we have to buy tickets right now. Like all these bands, because you read through these lists and you're like, oh, I love this guy, this guy's going, and that was definitely the draw.
It's like once you count like a full hand worth of like bands you want to see, you're like, this is the festival for me.
Yeah, and I think that this was a form of Ponzi scheme. They hadn't hired on all these bands at the time because at first it was 2 days and they listed thousands of bands. All right. or not, well, at least
Like first it was hundreds, now it's thousands.
They listed millions of bands in one day. I don't know
They
how
listed a billion bands, okay?
Yeah, 10 minutes. It was weird. The math doesn't add up. But so they listed all these bands in 2 days, and I think what was happening is they listed all these bands, didn't have them all lined up, and weren't able to pay them all yet, but got enough money from revenue from all the ticket sales that they're like, okay, we'll add another day and actually invite those other guys that we mentioned were coming, and started paying them through that. And now they're up to 7 days after all.
Are they really?
Yeah.
Wow.
7 days.
I didn't know that part. I knew that they had extended it to a third day. Because I signed up for, like, the reminders for when pre-sale, like, starts. Because I saw these bands. I'm like, oh, I love a lot of these bands. I have to go. And then I started seeing all the internet traffic of, like, oh, this is a scam. Like, this isn't real. These bands didn't know about this. So we did not buy tickets because I was just,
So it was also after Travis Scott had just had this big issue where he put on a concert and a bunch of people died because he was encouraging people to jump over the fence, and security, he's like, security can't stop you all, and like and people were like climbing the fences and running in, and then they had like a crowd crush situation, which is where there's so many people in the back of the crowd pushing forward that people in front can't breathe. And then the same people that put on that show were putting on this show that seemed implausibly packed and had way too many people attending, that we were like, we're not going to buy tickets for this. I'm not going to a place where, even if I hang out in the back, like, it just doesn't sound fun or safe. So
yeah. And it just seemed too good to be true. Like, all these bands, I'm like, and some of them were saying they didn't even know about it. So it's like, you can't even trust that these bands will even be there. So yeah. Hope it goes well. I hope, people have a good time. Another one, I think that older scams are really interesting because, I mean, everybody gets the stupid, like, phishing text messages that, with links and fake gift cards you can claim and whatever. But what I find interesting are, like, the older scams. So, have you heard the term salting the gold mine?
I don't think so.
Finally, one he doesn't know. So this comes from, in the olden days, dishonest mine owners would put a few gold nuggets in there to trick people into buying it.
Okay.
To mine for gold. Or sometimes they would fire shotguns loaded with gold dust into the mines just to make it look like there's something there and, like, sell the mines. So that one's kind of interesting.
That is a good scam.
Right?
Imagine, like, after they buy it, though, they find like a whole vein of gold. Like, man, I'm so glad you sold me this for $200.
Yeah. That would be funny. The scammer's like, damn it.
Like, they just make a fortune off of it. Yeah, that'd be really fun.
That would be fun.
But yeah,
I mean, at the very least, they're getting the planted gold. I mean, they at least got a couple nuggets out of there.
Yeah, a few shotgun pellets.
Unless they're fake. Maybe this, like, fool's gold nuggets.
Yeah. And who decided fool's gold isn't valuable anyway?
Right?
Who's making this stuff up? Yeah.
That iron pyrite, am I right?
Yeah. That's what it's called.
That's what it's called. Okay. Another one. This isn't like an old-timey one, I guess, but it's the 900 phone number scam. So people would get a telephone call or a notice in the mail notifying you that you've won a sweepstakes. Mm-hmm. Not suspicious at all. But to claim the prize, you'll have to dial a 1-900 number, which is like a toll number. So every second you're on that phone, you are paying for it on your phone bill, and it'll go to
Right.
like whoever owns the phone number. So that's a pretty simple one that I had never heard of. But like, be careful of 1-900 numbers. I don't know if the scam is still that common, but that's an interesting one.
Yeah. I got scammed one time. I whenever I first got a cell phone, it wasn't really a scam, but I was like a 13-year-old boy, and I had a phone, and I don't even know how I wound up doing this, but I wound up texting with like a 1-900 number all night long. just like it was like a sex thing, and I was just texting them all night long.
So funny.
$200.
Oof.
$200. At this time, at 13, I wasn't paying my own phone bill.
That's rough. That's rough.
I racked up a $200 phone bill in one night, and I never really got in trouble for it. But I did get like a really awkward talk. My dad's like, "Now, son, these industries aren't nice to these women." And I was
It probably wasn't even a woman.
Yeah, I know. It was probably a fucking...
Oh, your dad's so sweet.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
He's just like... He's such a nice man. But yeah, he was
is.
like... Which made it so much worse, you know? Like, we're outside, like, doing work, and, like shoveling. And he's like, "Now, son, I just want you to know that lots of people get hurt by the pornography industry."
Oh, my God.
No.
What
I know.
A sweet guy.
He's such a good guy, yeah. One time, though, when they weren't quite as nice about it, I was a kid. Like, I was like 8 or 9 years old, and we were staying at a hotel in North Carolina, and we've been going to the beach, and we come back to the hotel, and every night we were playing. They had like a Super Nintendo set up in the hotel room, and I've never seen this before, and I haven't seen it since, but they had it set up to where there weren't any actual game cards that you'd put into it. I'm sure everybody knows like the cartridges that, so it wasn't actually any of those, but like you would just like scroll to a screen and like play the game. And it turns out we were ignoring messages where it was saying like, pay to play this game. And so we were like paying like, it was like $8 every time we started a different game, and we were just switching between games like crazy because we have the attention spans of 8-year-olds, you know, and we're not really reading any of the fine print. And me and my friend, who was like probably a few years older than me, probably 11, had been just playing game after game after game, and I think we paid like, it was like $300, like just playing.
Your
like,
poor parents.
Just playing different Mario games, and I can't remember which hotel it was, or I would definitely name drop them because that's a scummy thing to do. Like, because what adult is playing those games in the first place at that point in time? Like, video games are sort of like a younger person's thing until a generation grew up with video games and then like continued to play them into adulthood, you know? Like my dad is still to this day never played a video game. Not even like Tetris. Like he has never touched a video game.
Not even Pong?
Not even Pong. Pong wasn't a thing when he was a kid.
Dang.
Yeah, he's an old man. They didn't have like a color TV until he was like. Well,
I don't think you need a color TV for Pong.
No, I'm just saying. Well, not color TV. They didn't have They didn't have video games when he was growing up. They didn't have any kind of TV until he was like in like a senior in high school.
Wow.
Yeah.
That kind of reminds me of, this isn't really like a scam, but it's the way I got tricked when I was younger.
That's a scam.
Yeah, but they didn't get any money or anything. But I used to play a game called Second Life.
Oh no.
This is like, I don't know. I don't know if it was. I think it was pretty popular like at the time, but I don't hear anybody talking about it these days. You know, everybody talks about like old Mario Kart and old this and old that.
Second Life.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've never really heard people talk about it, so I don't know if it's that like common or whatever. But it was just what would you call that game? It's like a before virtual reality, like the rooms you could go into to like be another person. It was like a Second Life. You would just design a character and just go live. Literally, that's what it was. You just created an avatar, and then you would just go around and like talk to people. You could like fly and teleport and stuff like that. But that was it. There was no like central game or objective to it. It was just you know, go around. You can talk to people. You can just chat with people. And honestly, I should not have been on that game when I was. I was like young. I was like 10, 8. I don't know how old I was, but young. And I remember somebody started chatting with me, and I was like, oh yeah, sure, cool, like we'll be friends or whatever. And then they're like, oh, follow me. And then I followed them all the way into this weird cave in the game. And then they disappeared. And I was like, ah, shit, I don't know where they went. Oh, well, I'll just teleport out of here. I could not teleport anymore. I was like stuck in the corner of the game. And I couldn't find my way out. I couldn't walk out of that cave. I tried for hours and hours and hours and hours trying to get out of this cave. I couldn't find my way out. I couldn't teleport. I couldn't fly. I couldn't do anything. And I just had to like leave my account stuck in that cave for all eternity. I could not get out. And I don't understand like the point of that. Like they didn't get any money out of me.
The point was to hurt you.
Right? Like they just ruined my time. And that was the last time I played Second Life because I was a kid and I didn't understand that I could probably just make a new account. I didn't get that. So I just left it there.
I'm really glad you brought that up though, because that just opened up a whole new world in my mind of video game scams, which are plentiful. So there's a game that me and my friends used to play called Old School. Well, at the time it was just called RuneScape. Now it's called Old School RuneScape because they reopened the server. But a game called RuneScape, and that game is, I think that's where scams started. I think before this Confidence Man 1848 thing, I think that RuneScape was the original. That's what taught me not to trust anyone ever, because they had so many clever little, like, people would stand in the little marketplace in this game and they'd be like, I am doubling money, and hand me some money and I'll give you back double the money. And you would do it, and you'd hand them like 10 in-game currency gold pieces, and they'd hand you back 20. And you're like, oh, you did it.
Hey, that worked.
20 gold pieces. I got 20 gold for that. And then you'd hand them 1,000, and they hand you back 2,000. And you're like, all right, this guy's legit. 2,000 gold pieces, especially for like newer players. So it's like, you know, it's happening. Like, this is how I'm going to get rich. This man he's my benefactor. And then you hand them, like, you're at that point on the third trade, you're like, I just shove everything at them, 100,000 gold, and then they just log off. like
that is so smart.
And
I would do that in real life. I'd be like, here's $2. They'd be like, here's 4. I'd be like, whoa, here's 20. They'd be like, here's 40. Here's my entire bank account. And they'd be like, bye.
But the thing is, you can also scam the scammers, because, like, if you're really like low on money and you're very low level and don't want, like,
you can do it a couple times.
You can just do like, okay, here's like 1,000 gold, and they're like, oh, here's 2,000 gold. Log off. You just leave.
You can do it.
You get the upper hand and leave with the money. Go find a different guy who's doubling money. I've done that a few times. Like, just like sort of like,
that's hilarious.
Like played with the edge of it. Like, how high can I go before they're like, all right, now give me all your cash stack. You know. And
that's funny.
They also have one that's like where they say they're trimming armor. So trimmed armor in the game is like essentially just like an aesthetic purpose. Like, you have standard base armor, and they would put like gold on it, and it just like looks different, and it just adds a cosmetic to it, and armor's expensive. So, and only certain, like, if you have like a certain skill, can you actually trim armor, like a certain crafting skill. And so, like, they would just like they convince you, like, oh yeah, I'm trimming armor. And you might start with like, okay, well, here's like something cheap, and then you hand them like your most expensive shit, and they just log off. So like, it was pretty bad. There's so many of them. I could literally run through the entire, just the entire sequence of how scams originated on RuneScape to like where they eventuated, and it just got worse and worse. Like, people would lead you out into the wilderness for this one's gonna be hard to explain, and we can probably cut this one if it doesn't go anywhere. But like, people will just like lead you out into the into the wilderness, which is like a player versus player area. So you would like walk out there with them, and they would just say something like, oh, I need you to help me fight this thing or kill this boss. Like, if you do this, I'll pay you gold or something. So you walk out there with like your best gear to help them. And then they just have like people like descend on you and kill you. Or like it was just
an ambush.
Yeah.
That's so crazy.
And lots of kids learned how to guard your password better, number one, because that was a big scam. And also, just don't trust strangers.
Yeah,
ever.
Don't trust strangers.
If you grew up playing RuneScape, you will never fall for another scam. All right. Well, thank you guys so much for listening this far, if you did. And yeah, we're on every social media that you can find as Honestly Comical. Be sure to like and subscribe if you're watching on YouTube. And we appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. And yeah, this has been Honestly Comical. I'm Cody. This is Melissa. And yeah, have a nice night.